All right, so now we're going to get into graphing the sine function, and we're only going to graph the sine and cosine function, and they're very similar. So we're going to start off by graphing the sine function, and then we'll get into the cosine function. So anytime we make a new graph, we start with the table of values and list the table of values, and then plot it on the graph. So we're going to do the same thing. So if x is 0, sine of 0 is equal to 0, because remember we're doing the y value. So the x, y coordinate plane is 0, 0. So if x is pi over 4, then sine of pi over 4 is equal to square root of 2 over 2. So I get pi over 4 square root of 2 over 2. If x is pi over 2, that's at the 90-degree angle, remember. So the sine of pi over 2 is 1. If x is 3 pi over 2, the sine is, remember, positive, the y value, square root of 2 over 2. So I have pi over 2, 1, 3 pi over 4, square root of 2 over 2, and pause it and go ahead and finish the rest of them, and I'll give them to you in a little bit. So this is your rest of your table, and remember I'm getting this from the rule that sine of a angle is the y value of that coordinate. And go ahead and label your graph. This we're going to use as positive 1, and this is negative 1. We're going to graph from 0 to 2 pi. So this is 2 pi, and that's 12 units. So 6 is going to be at pi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is pi. And half of that is going to be pi over 2. And this is 3 pi over 2. And then if I make half of that, which is going to be 1.5 units, that's going to be my pi over 4. So I'm going to go ahead and plot all these points. I have the point 0, 0. I have the point when x is pi over 4, y is square root of 2 over 2. Well, square root of 2 over 2 is going to equal roughly 0.7 if you do it in the calculator. Square root of 2 divided by 2, it's roughly 0.7. Understand this is 0.5, this is 0.75, so it's going to be somewhere about right here. Pi over 2 is equal to 1. I have that point pi over 2, 1. X is pi over 2. Y is 1. I have the point 3 pi over 4 square root of 2 over 2. I already did that, and so I'm not going to have to do it every time at 0.7. Pi, I have the point here, pi 0. 5 pi over 4 is negative square root of 2 over 2, so it's going to be down here, right before negative 0.75. I have the point 3 pi over 2, negative 1. Well, that's going to be here. X is 3 pi over 2. Y is negative 1. 7 pi over 4 is here. And 2 pi 0 is here. And graph it as best you can with a curve, not a V. And the sine function looks like this. So go ahead and try to graph the cosine function the same way. Plug in the x value to your y equals cosine of x. This is your x value for all of them, and you get out your y value for all of them. So I have all these x values already that you're going to plug in, and find the cosine of x of all of those, and you'll get the y values. So you should have this as your table of values, and now go ahead and plot all those points. And you can pause it again, and I'll give you that graph in 3 seconds. 2, 1. And here's what the cosine function should look like. Notice that this started at positive 1. And it does make that same curve. If it continued on, it would be that same curve